Good morning. You know, I was thinking about how growing up in the 1950s and 60s, that was the time when shows like Twilight Zone and Outer Limits, and I think there was one called One Step Beyond, were popular. And they had episodes. Well, you can Google Twilight Zone. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll see what I mean. There were it was the age of the Cold War, and in school, in elementary school, as little kids, we used to have duck and cover drills in case somebody dropped an atomic bomb. Not that hiding under a wooden desk was going to do much, but maybe it might prevent a part of the roof from falling on us or something. But, all the other effects of an atom bomb wouldn't do too much about. It was also a time when there were a lot of doctor shows on. While I'm talking, I'm going to see if I can get my coffee going. And in these doctor shows, what was interesting is that I'm going to have Mexico this morning. What was really interesting is that the doctors were presented as either romantic figures or men it was always men who knew, who understood, who were able to find out what was the unusual thing happening with this person, or why was this thing happening to them, and usually they were able to cure them. And very often their patients fell in love with them. There was, I think, young Dr. Kildare. And this was also a time when John F. Kennedy was president. Very, very attractive looking man, the youngest person to ever be elected president. And it was a time when people still looked up to people in authority, unquestioningly, but that was starting to change too, because as we got into the 1960s, then it became anti-war protests, make love, not war, literally in a lot of cases. And it was a very tumultuous time. So also I might add that in the 1950s there was quite a proliferation of horror movies. And there were movies about what would happen if somebody dropped an atomic bomb. I remember this movie, On the Beach. Anyway, kind of like about the possible obliteration of, a lot of civilization. And anyway, I don't want to get too depressing here. I have a point with all of this, as usual. Let me stir in the crema, or kind of fold it and stir it in. So I think that there were three things that characterized what was disturbing about a lot of these shows and movies and times, and what makes them sometimes continue to be disturbing. I think about shows I watched, for example, on Twilight Zone that still bother me. Kind of gave you a creepy feeling. Well, here's the thing that makes that sort of stuff linger. it was not some crazy, fantastical, made up thing. It's always about things that either were plausible or things that had to do with concerns and fears and insecurities that most people have. Okay, so for example, if I had to boil it down to three things, I would say that in all those situations, there were people who didn't understand what was going on, couldn't explain what's going on here. People who were not in control of the situation. What's happening? And I feel powerless to do anything about it. And people who feel alone, like either nobody else understands, can relate, or the little group we're with, we're just this little group and they don't understand out there. I mean, it's like we're alone. What are we going to do? And I thought, isn't that so similar to the things that are going on today? Needs a little bit of syrup this morning. I think chocolate coconut macaron. So, today, what's going on, like with COVID. I mean, even doctors are baffled and don't really know. It's hard for them to explain. They can't explain what the heck is going on. Things like this haven't happened before, okay? And, oops, there you are. We feel out of control. What can we do? I mean, they're telling us what not to do, stay away, don't get in groups, and this sort of thing. It's breaking up. But we don't know how effective, what they're telling us. We don't feel like we're having a good effect. We don't see the effect. We feel out of control. A lot of us having to not be able to see friends, stay in our houses, not go to work. Our surroundings have completely changed because our lifestyles had to change because of the whole COVID thing. And then also a lot of, particularly I think people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and older are, probably going, what is happening to society? What is going on? It's like everything's turning topsy-turvy. So what was kind of entertainment back in the 50s and 60s for me, shows and movies like I talked about, now it's like I'm living the things that were depicted in those shows. I don't mean the situations, like I remember at Twilight Zone where a bunch of doctors and nurses ran from the operating room screaming, and they were talking about, oh my gosh, there's nothing we can do, this is terrible. And sort of the idea of the whole thing was that this lady, they took off her bandages and all, and she was beautiful. But then when they took off their medical masks and all that, they all had pig noses. So it was like the norm in that little made-up world was to have a pig nose. And this lady instead, looked like somebody that we would think is beautiful. And on one level, it's funny and weird, but on another level, it's like, yeah, there's something in us that wants to be like everybody else to a certain extent. There's a certain level to which if you meet certain criteria, you feel like you're part of the group. And if you don't get to that level, you feel left out, alone. You don't understand, and you're out of control. Out of control meaning you don't have control over the situation. What can you do to change it? So, isn't that kind of like the things that are going on today? So, what can we do to feel better? Much better. Okay. Well, first of all, let's use an analogy. Okay. Let's say, I don't know, this is meaningful to me, may not be meaningful to people who are younger than in their 50s or 60s, but let's say that an atomic bomb was dropped and you wake up in the morning, there's no radio, there's no TV, no internet, your cars won't start, there's no people outside. It's like somehow or another, you're the only one. I know, just for fun, you slept in the old bomb shelter last night that was built into your basement in your 60-year-old house. And everybody else, it looks like it's been obliterated, but you're still alive. What are you going to do? You know what you're not going to do? Let me tell you this first. You are not going to sit down and go, oh my gosh, what's happened? I need to try to understand this. What can I do to, bring all the people back and find them? And oh dear, how can I change things? No, what you're going to do is you're going to, you probably think that for a few minutes, like, whoa, what happened? And where is everybody? But, in a little while, you're going to think in terms of more basic needs. I need to go to the bathroom. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry. Let me make sure that I've got some food that I can eat. You'll probably go look for your family or your friends or whatever. The thing is that you are not going to sit and cogitate and contemplate the world situation. You're going to deal with things much closer to home, with what's going on in you. Okay? Now, I'm going to take a little jump here because I don't want things to, I don't want to drag this out too long. But you know how I'm always talking about, don't stress over the things that you cannot control. Do something about the things that are under your control. And the biggest thing is you, okay? 1, your awesome power to choose one thought over another. And 2, your ability to make changes in yourself. We always want to change situations and change other people. Really, the most realistic and reasonable and practical and effective thing to do is to work on yourself, right? That's something that I've really learned being a health coach, that I can point people in a good direction. I can provide them with tools, but they have to be the one to realize what they need, what's the problem, why they want to change it. I mean, sometimes we're aware of a problem in ourselves and we don't want to deal with it. So, you have to want to deal with it. You have to have a good reason why. And when you have a good reason why you want to change something, you will overcome your excuses. Anyhow, I just want to encourage you today, if you've been stressing out over the world situation, COVID, society, just things that are not directly under your control, stop. Make a decision to stop, because You have the awesome ability to choose one thought over another. So think about, well, for example, right now I'm thinking about when I get off of here, I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to take a few minutes to enjoy my coffee. I'm going to sit with the dog. Hey, Grayson, have you finished your breakfast? And, oh, do you have something to say? You have something to say, boy? Huh? Anyway, and I'm going to do things about what I can do. Grayson, oh, he wants to go outside. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take another couple of sips of coffee. Yes. And then I am going to take care of my responsibilities and take this boy for a walk. So do what your responsibilities, fulfill your responsibilities. Take some time to relax, even if it's just like 2 minutes or something. Okay, Grayson? Does that sound good? Is that a good idea? Okay. And don't stress over the things that you have no control over, but do something about the things that you have control over. I have control over me. I'm working on me. Join me and work on you.